I did not enjoy the ERAS tour. That doesn't mean that it was a bad movie. It's me. Hi, I'm the problem. It's me.
Welcome to the ERAS tour.
I'm not a Swiftie, but it's not Taylor Swift's fault. It's not the producer's fault. The production was very, very high quality. I am not a white girl. I'm a slightly swarthy man. And so this movie was not for me. The ERAS tour was not for me. Taylor Swift is not for me. But that doesn't mean that it's bad. I've decided I need a rubric to really make clear where these movies fall. And so there are going to be two axes on the rubric. There's going to be the epic to extremely lame kind of axis, and then there's going to be the super lib to super traditional axis. We'll go from 0 to 10 in both axes. So if it's really epic and really traditional, that's a movie like The Godfather, say, or The Passion, or, I don't know, Braveheart. If a movie is really lib and really bad, that's a movie like The Female Ghostbusters. The writing's not great, the casting was obviously insane, and the message is bad. So an example of a movie in the top left quadrant. So you're talking about a movie that has very good production value. It's competently made, but it's just the idea animating it is so bad and dumb. Maybe like American Beauty, that would be there. And then what's a movie that is right about things, but is like maybe somewhat hastily made? Or, well, an example of, look, I would never say this, but as I was sitting with Mr. Davies, he said, it wasn't me, he suggested that maybe some of the films that he has been in, which have the right message and idea, but they've been a little bit, sometimes a little slimmer on the budget, and it's not always the most, so maybe some of those movies would go into that quadrant. Again, that's not my opinion, that's Mr. Davies's. So those are the kind of differences there. Where does this movie land? It lands right in the center. Actually, it leans a little bit trad on ideology. No matter, I don't know if Taylor Swift votes for Democrats or not, but the whole idea of it is pretty traditional, actually. So it's 1, even maybe 2 on the traditional side. And then on the film production side, it's almost a perfect score. It just was filmed so well for a concert. So it's maybe a 9. So you go up there, that's a 9. And then you go over here, that's about a 6 or even a 7. So that's 15 out of 20, 75%. You'd think 75% is bad, but I don't know, 3 out of 4 stars. It's pretty good. It's not bad. It's a solid C. But it's not for me. I found it deeply unpleasant to actually sit there and watch the movie because it was even just kind of creepy. I'm a single guy going into a movie theater. They didn't even have popcorn at the theater, so I'm the weirdo sitting in the theater with just an unsweetened iced tea surrounded by millennial women and some teenage girls. And it was weird. But I'm there, I'm watching it. I wanted to chime in on this pop cultural phenomenon that's netted, $100 million at the box office, dominates box office sales. This is after the ERAS live tour made Taylor Swift a billionaire. I thought, what the hell is this all about? And I got my answer. Right from the beginning of the movie, Taylor comes out and she starts talking to the audience like a friend. Says, oh, you're my soulmates. I'm so glad we get to hang out together. And I get to be here with you. She's pointing at the audience. And they love her, they eat her up. And it's a little bit contrived, the kind of winking on the stage, because she's playing to a stadium of like a bazillion people. But I think a lot of the reason people like her is it's a parasocial relationship. It's not just about the music, which is completely banal. It's not just about her looks. She's pretty, but she's not like a runway model. She's just like a very pretty, normal gal singing perfectly pleasant, inoffensive songs about totally ordinary things, like breaking up with your boyfriend. And these millennial women can find her very relatable. There's one moment later in the movie that summed it all up for me, which is where Taylor's set the stage. I mean, amazing production value. All of these different set pieces, different eras, different characters that she's taking on. And in one, she's in what seems like a magical wood. And she says, look, in my imagination, I'm in folklore. I'm in an enchanted wood. In my imagination, I'm not just some lonely millennial covered in cat hair, binge watching TV. You know, maybe that's my real life. Unlucky in love, I keep getting dumped, but I'm still young and single and cool, and I'll keep dating people like that NFL guy. But I'm kind of lonely, and I'm not, and really the thing that just gets me out of bed in the morning is all of you. I just love all of you, but but in my imagination, I could be so much more. This is an extremely famous, extremely wealthy, extremely successful, rather pretty woman. She is one of the least relatable people on earth if you just look at the descriptors that would describe her. And yet, she persuasively argues that she's just like you. And she makes the whole show about the audience. At one point, Taylor leans over her piano and she kind of jokes about how she's leaning. She goes, why am I even leaning this way? I don't know, whatever, I'm just me. You know, I'm just me, I'm just being me. She goes, I know that you're supposed to play it cool. You're supposed to, but guys, I'm just telling you from the bottom of my heart, this is the greatest experience of my life being on this tour. And I'm sure she means it. I'm not making fun of her. I don't think she's being insincere. It's an amazing tour. This thing sold out. The tickets were thousands of dollars each. She sold out everywhere. She now is a billionaire because of it. You know, this is one of the most successful music tours ever in history. She goes, and I know I'm supposed to play it cool, but I just thank you so much. Thank you for doing this for me and for showing up and being supportive, and just thank you. And it's so simple. Entertainers used to do that. But for the past 20, 30, 40 years even, our culture has been so infected by irony and apathy that kind of sincerity is shocking and is refreshing and really resonates. One time I was in Cuba, I was in Havana, and I went to one of these Ricky Ricardo kind of shows, you know, Babalu type thing with the dancing girls and the drum players. And what struck me about it at first was the sincerity of the performance. These were trained performers who took their job seriously and who put a smile on their face, and they just put on a good old style show for you. Unlike most of our musicians today and our show people who they feign apathy. They show up, yeah, whatever, man, you know, this one, I wrote this song for my girlfriend or whatever, who cares? I don't know, you might not like it, I don't care what you like. You know, and even when they speak, a lot of the modern performers, they speak in vocal fry, you know, it's like, they don't care, man, I'm cool, I'm apathetic. In fact, Taylor spoke to that directly when she said, I know you're supposed to play it cool, but I just sincerely, I'm gonna say, on my voice, with my breath, looking at you, not a hint of irony, thank you for what you've done for me, I really appreciate it. So refreshing. She keeps thanking the audience, I think sincerely, for saying, you let me do this, you let me explore different genres. I love, one of my favorite lines of the movie, she says, you go out there and you allow me to just take all these risks and explore these genres. And I thought, you know, it's not a knock on Taylor Swift. She's great at what she does. It's not a huge amount of range here to the music. You know, it's kind of like pop with a country flavor to country with a pop flavor to, that's kind of, you know, it's not Miley Cyrus's Disney girl to pansexual acrobat. You know, that's a huge range. With Taylor Swift, she's much more controlled. She's much more disciplined about that. But even then, she persuades her audience that the audience is allowing her to take all of these huge risks. When you want to protect your data, you've got to go to expressvpn.com/MichaelYT. As you know, there are a lot of people who want to look at what you are doing online. The government, the ISPs, the big tech companies, they all are digging into your stuff, and so you should use the #1 rated VPN on the market, not just according to me, but according to a number of outlets and authorities as well. That would be ExpressVPN. Head on over there right now. We've got all sorts of great deals and promos if you are a listener and a viewer of this show. Do not wait. You got to go immediately over to ExpressVPN/Michael, letter Y, letter T. That is expressvpn.com/Michael YT today. Taylor Swift is a lot like Paul McCartney. I like Paul McCartney's music more than I like Taylor Swift's music, but they're similar in that you can tell they are both just fanatically obsessed with making hits. You think about the Beatles, John Lennon wanted to get some political statement in or whatever. George Harrison wanted to play sitar and do kind of weird Indian stuff. Paul McCartney doesn't want any of that. Paul McCartney wants to make hits that people like. And Taylor Swift, I think, is a lot like that. And so she just goes where the hits are. And even though she's very disciplined about her range, sometimes she'll do a song that's kind of sexy. But even when she does a song that's kind of sexy, where she's kind of jiggling and dancing and talking about like you touching her and stuff, even, I don't know the names of almost any of these songs, but in one of them, she says, oh, you know, when we're together, when we're doing stuff late at night, in my dreams, this is what it's like. So she's doing, I don't know what the song is called, but it's this song that seems like if a more vulgar artist were doing it would be like, yeah, baby, and you're touching me here, and we're going in the back room and doing whatever. But for Taylor Swift, it's 1 degree removed. She goes, we're doing all these kind of sexy things in my dreams. So it's just a fantasy. It's still actually kind of wholesome. And then, of course, you get that wholesome image such that 1 or 2 sets later, she's changed costumes, she's changed settings, and she's in this white virginal dress, and she's singing some other kind of wholesome song. Then, at other times, she delves into something that you might even call a little bit occult. There's this serpent motif that comes up through one of the sets. There's what looks like a witch costume in a witch setting, but it's slightly elusive. You know, it's not too on the nose. So she scratches that itch in the audience. She's extremely malleable from the perspective of her character. And the reason she can do that is because she pushes everything onto the audience. Her main move in the show is to just point at the audience. And because she's in a huge stadium, it just erupts in cheers. And she just does it with her fingers. She always is making it about them, not about her. She's merely a vessel for perfectly pleasant pop. And it works because it's obviously made her a billionaire. Then she'll get even more wholesome. There's some song about hugging people. She says, I want a hug, or I want to give you a hug, or something like that. And so this was obviously pre-planned, but she goes up to the stage, and there's a little girl, this perfectly cast, lovely, I think it was a black girl, but some, at least vaguely diverse, and, you know, bright-eyed and right out of central casting. And Taylor comes and gives her a big hug, a little kiss on the cheek. The audience goes totally crazy, right on the line about hugging someone. And so in that way, she's gone from country ballads to angsty teenager to sexy upbeat song to kind of funny upbeat song like the Shake It Off thing to almost Mr. Rogers. She's saying, don't give me a hug with the little girl. She can just do anything fairly persuasively. So she, like a true entrepreneur, she goes to where the demand is. It's not that she's got a message that she's selling. She's got one kind of product, and she's gonna make sure that you like that product. She's gonna persuade you that that's what you want. She's gonna figure out what you want first, and then she's gonna give that to you. Just, you hear this with all good salesmen. They say the key to being a good salesman is you don't sell the customer what you want to sell. You sell the customer what they want to buy. And that's what Taylor Swift does. The culmination of all of this is, to my mind, not that interesting. But it's not for me. It's for predominantly white, predominantly millennial women, with some little girls in there too, and maybe there are a few guys, at least guys who are a little bit light in the loafers. And even to that point, she's doing one of the numbers, and it looked like there was a either transvestite or vaguely LGBT inclined person or multiple people on the stage. But even then, it wasn't too much. It was a little bit ambiguous. It was totally inoffensive. Taylor Swift is in that way kind of like Bill Clinton, or maybe even Barack Obama, where you can see this person speak and read into that person whatever you want. Especially Obama was a blank canvas. No one really knew anything about him. He would brag that he could walk into a room with 100 people who had totally different views, and he could persuade each and every one of them that he was on their side. Bill Clinton pioneered that kind of politics for the 90s. Taylor does that, where Taylor apparently says kind of crazy lib things, but they're not that crazy, and she's not that vociferous about it. And I look at her, and I think she's kind of conservative in a way. This is why I would give the movie just a little bit of an edge on the traditional side rather than on the liberal side. Because even if she supports, I don't know, I don't even know what political views she supports, but if she supports some LGBT thing or any other kind of, some Democrat or something, her character is conservative. She doesn't have crazy piercings. She doesn't have purple hair. She doesn't have tattoos. She's pretty, but she's not some dolled up, cosmetically enhanced supermodel. She's just normal. She's normal. And I think this is the key to the success. She's just a normal person in a society that is defined by the abnormal, that exalts bizarre behaviors and desires and fetishes and ideologies. And in that society where being weird has become the norm, people are starved for things that are sincerely normal. And she's one of them. You just want a girl who's kind of pretty, who can, she's more than kind of pretty, but not threatening, who can persuade you that she's just like you, to get up there and sing about how she's heartbroken because her boyfriend left her, but that's okay, she's going to shake it off. Again, it's not for me, but I'm not surprised she's a billionaire. See you next time.